Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay. It's a little bit after 6. Let me check my volume, make sure my volume is alright. Look, first I want to thank everyone who helps the show, whether that's sending information, whether that's sending links, clips, whatever. However you do it. Insignificant and outlandish. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's also people who donate through Super Chat or Patreon or PayPal. It's all appreciated. Thanks, guys. It really does keep the show ticking along. So, interesting story. It took a socialist to find it. and seriously, it did. So, I did this story the other day where I made the point that the moderates were trying to fight back. The moderates of the bunch, the moderate Democrats, are terrified of the Sanders wing of the Democratic Party and are terrified of the left, and had huddled together in a safe space to discuss strategy to fight back the progressives, the lefties, the people who they rub themselves in at every particular opportunity, but who they really know that they are fundamentally against. One of the things that I missed in the article, and I'm glad the guy pointed it out, that Lee Carter is a socialist here in Virginia. This line right here. It's an awesome line because he makes a really good political point, and you can see how this is being used, and I agree with him. So this is the document. Sanders' wing of the party terrifies moderate Democrats. Here's how they plan to stop it. Here's how moderate Democrats plan to stop any lefty change coming to the Democratic Party. I keep saying the party's not going to change. All right. Well, I don't say that. There's a potential for the party to change. The party has changed in the past. It may change again. It used to be a flaming racist party, and it's become this hugger of identity. So, yeah, from a flat fact point, the party can change. Will it change without something significant happening? Just to make the point clear, I tend to think things change when they run their course. Meaning, it has to be fully and completely found to be thoroughly discredited. Well, will it be thoroughly discredited? Donald Trump gets elected. You would think that would be enough, but not so much. Not if the public itself is willing to go back to the party without it making any changes, meaning the model itself still remains to be sound. Keep in mind, the model itself has nothing to do with whether or not you're getting anything accomplished. It has everything to do with whether or not you're getting elected and getting the policy choices of the people you represent, that top 1%, that top crust that gives you money to your campaign coffers, whether they're satisfied. Well, this lefty thing is taking place, and the anti-establishment thing is also taking place on the right. Now, if the Democratic Party, after not doing anything different, just standing there, waiting, thumb thoroughly in ass, knowing for the most part that the public went to Trump because of what it wasn't getting in the other party. If it can just stand there without doing anything to change and still get elected, then the model itself is sound. Part of my reasoning for this solidarity of no is because it's almost a validation of the party itself. If the party can just hang around and still get reelected doing not one thing, just saying Donald Trump is horrendous, vote us in because we're not Donald Trump. If that works, then from a political strategy point, it makes perfect sense to take all the money in the world and tell your population whatever you need to tell your population to get elected. Let's take a look at this part. This part is amazing. I love this. So, right here. With much of the policy innovation of the Democratic side happening on the left, the opportunity agenda, that's what they call themselves, opportunity agenda, moderates, the people who don't know what they are, the moderates of the bunch, call themselves opportunity agenda. I love it. Unveil here tries to equip moderates with their own big ideas. You're giving somebody who by definition doesn't go anywhere or doesn't do anything. They're moderates. Do you know what moderate means? Moderation. By definition, they stand fast in moderation. And they're going to come up with big ideas. The tallest little person. The gigantic midget. All right, what are their big ideas? Some of the initiatives, key initiatives, are massive apprenticeship programs to train workers, a privatized employer-funded universal pension that would supplement Social Security and overhaul unemployment insurance to include skill training. Other proposals include Small Business Bill of Rights, no idea what that means, and creation of a boomer corps, like volunteer Murray Corps for seniors. They haven't worked enough. They haven't worked enough. You really believe that what's needed is a big idea to put people who've worked their entire lives back to work? That's what's required. These are their big ideas. Meanwhile, they say progressive agenda is out of date. They dismiss it, for instance, the federal jobs guarantee as a rehash of the New Deal. Our ideas must be bold. They must also fit the age we're in. Big isn't enough. If it's bold and old, it's simply old. I love that. I love that. That's so ridiculous. I love it. So first, the key here that socialists pointed out was privatized employer-funded universal pension will at some point replace Social Security. Now, if you remember, think back in time. Bill can't keep his dick in his pants, Clinton. If you remember, he was essentially decidedly to the right. And he pulled stuff off that many right-wingers were not able to pull off. Destroying Glass-Steagall, passing of NAFTA, destruction of welfare. One of the things that he tried to also get under his belt was the destruction of Social Security. Bill Clinton tried to privatize Social Security. He had a deal with Newt Gingrich that they were going to privatize Social Security. Now, this is the Democrats' big thing, and he was willing to just give it away. He was willing to give it away. The reason why this didn't take place was because Bill Clinton, in the news, he gets a blowjob. It was more than the blowjob, but that's the thing that came out in the news. And he lied and denied it, and then gets into the camera with the indignity of an American president with a stain on a woman's dress. His stain, his personal stain, his DNA that they could pull out in 1,000 years and make another Bill Clinton Jr. His stain. He had to come out and explain to the public that, yes, I put that woman's head around on my penis. And I pulled it up and down. And then I lied about it afterwards. And I demonized her afterwards. It was something they tried to do, Democratic Party. And you have a bunch of moderates who's calling the big idea to create a program that's running counter and in competition to some degree to Social Security. What I would guarantee you is at some point a Republican is going to say, hey, why are we paying Social Security? Why don't we just give a block amounts to this and just give it to Social Security? And slowly but surely they're going to attack and whittle away. And good-natured, decent people are going to say, hey, maybe we don't need Social Security. They're not going to know any better from the political stance of the Republican Party, that is to destroy public services. And what are you going to have here to help them out? Will be Democrats like this, moderates who believes the big idea is to create a program that will ultimately find the destruction of Social Security. Do you believe that the Democrat moderate doesn't know this? Do you believe they don't know this? Republicans, Democrats, the people who put money in their pockets would love to get Social Security in the hands of some business where it can reap the benefits and profits off of your cash. It is what they've been trying to do for years. And it's nice that you have a group of moderates who think a big idea is to give them the first stepping stone to that particular process. Here's the thing. To their point, some of the lefties who are pushing their ideas are going back to the past. And this is an argument that I've made myself. They shouldn't go back to the past. But that said, what they're trying to do and going back to the past is far better than the nonsense that these guys are trying to push. If you're going to do anything, expand Social Security. There's no reason that Social Security is this little an amount that it gives the elderly. Expand it. Raise the cap from 100,000 to 200,000 or 250,000 and expand the amount of money that you're giving people in this country. Full stop. They shouldn't have to struggle in their old age. They've worked their entire life. You shouldn't have to, steal are in this thing of poverty at the point in which you've gone through the course of your life. Expand Social Security. Now, there is a big idea. I don't know why that's a big idea, but expand Social Security. As for the other thing, an apprentice program to train workers. I don't necessarily know I'm against that. I would be against that if you're talking about just giving money to private businesses to do it. Yes, at that point I'm against it. As for job training, no. If you're going to do that, make school free. No, not job training in and of itself. Make school free. You kill two birds with one stone. If people want to go back to school in order to learn something, they should be able to go back to school without being put in magnificent amounts of debt. If you're talking about a big idea, that's a big idea. Take a portion of the money that you're giving to the military to kill people abroad and turn it into a jobs program here. The jobs program in this case is you go to school, whatever you want to go to school for, and you learn whatever you want to learn. If that means taking up a trade or skill or something else, congratulations. You've traded or skill. You've changed what you were doing in your previous job that you might have hated into something else. It's not specific to the individual at that point, meaning from the job. It's opening your society. Public education going to the level of a 4-year school. Yes, that's a big idea. But that's what you should do and get rid of this job training stuff. I don't know what the Small Business Bill of Rights is. And as a standpoint of federal jobs guarantee, there's nothing wrong with a federal jobs guarantee. It's actually a pretty damn good idea. I love the idea. I would add a universal basic income. I would say that the things that we give from the standpoint of services or materials in our country, like coal or oil, or whatever the natural resources, there's a tax on those natural resources, and that money is going back to the people in the country. Kind of like what Sarah Palin did in Alaska. We have oil. The use of that oil needs to go back, or part of that money needs to go back to the people of Alaska. Congratulations. Here's a check. I'm Sarah Palin. There was a reason she had, an 80-90% approval rating in Alaska. It wasn't because of anything she did. It was because of that. I'm saying that should be done all throughout the United States. We shouldn't be giving away the natural resources of this country. That seems odd to me. I don't know why. It's just like when we bought the banks. We didn't get a voting interest in the banks. It's nonsense. Why would you put money into something and not getting some kind of feedback from it? That being said, the federal jobs guarantee is not necessarily horrible. The thing I would add to that is worker co-ops. If the federal government is going to get its thumb into something, allow it to be through worker co-ops. Allow the workers themselves to control the company, to support companies that do that. You're doing that because you want to get rid of the CEO out of the mix, and you want the workers themselves to be making determinations for themselves. This is not a perfect solution because this doesn't do anything about climate change or anything else. You still have these guys working within a capitalistic system. But if you're trying to move the ball forward from the standpoint of the left, this is where you want to go with this. The other stuff is not horrendous, but this is where you want to go. I understand the argument of these guys are working towards like they were going back to the 40s. And you're right, they do need to change. And I would argue that the worker co-op thing is the thing that needs to be added to whatever conversation that you're trying to have. Be careful with what the Democratic Party is trying to do, especially if what they're trying to do is to undermine something that has been in the making for God knows how long, and has been on the Republican chopping block for God knows how long. When they're making, these guys are trying to go back to the New Deal, it gives you this idea of where their head is. What the new lefties are pushing is not completely wrong. And the article to some degree is right that the argument has been dominated by what the left has been pushing. Federal jobs guarantee, maybe universal basic income in some of these cases, college, healthcare. And they should push those things. The public loves those things. The public is the determining factor in what the public wants and the level to which the public is willing to live. If the public says it is unconscionable for us to have one person without health care, then that will be so. It could say the same thing about education. Those are the public's choices. I always find it weird that the public doesn't think that way and make that choice. But nevertheless, this is where we are. This idea that the moderate is coming with a big idea is somewhat hilarious to me, and yet they're using terms like big idea. But my point to this is their big idea is the potential privatization of Social Security, just like Bill Clinton was trying to do in the 90s. Be aware of what these guys are trying to do, and be very clear what these guys are telling you that is impossible or what they can't do. They're usually saying that for a particular interest, and that interest is not the same as yours. Let's see. Trudy. OT, roughly 4.2 million Americans had or were eligible to have Social Security clearance as of 2015. Wow. Trump wants to remove 6 of them because why? LOFL. What? I don't know what LOFL means. OT. Roughly 4.2 million Americans had or were eligible to have security clearance as of 2015. Trump wants to remove 6 of them because why? Well, I think he wants to remove them because I think they were attacking him, if I'm not mistaken. That's probably why. I'm getting to the end of it. What do you think about the post office holding voluntary Social Security funds? Social Security disability will still be funded by taxes. I don't know. Look, I am more so in the mind of this is something I want my government doing. Like when I think of all of the things that I would want private or government doing, this is something I would prefer government to do. And more needs to be added to it, and it needs to be a progressive fund, meaning the more wealthy needs to pay more. Period. They use our society for their ends and then complain about the society itself. It's like, oh God, I'm paying this much in taxes. Well, yeah, because you've won magnificently off the backs of the society. You're able to breathe the air. You're able to walk the streets. You use the post office, the fire department, the police department. Lord knows you use the police department. They're protecting your private wealth. You use all of these things. You're going to Starbucks and you're interacting with that particular woman who's perfectly pleasant. You know what makes her pleasant? Living in a decent society. You're very active interacting with her in this particular decent society. That needs to be paid for. So yeah, you were able to make more, so you pay more. Whether that's in Social Security or just the half the society in and of itself. I don't understand why the majority of people don't think that way. Seeing as they themselves live in a society and they pay into things to make the society work, oftentimes at a higher percentage than that guy who's complaining about the taxes that he has to pay. Anything that's an assault or a potential attack on Social Security, I think should be fought. Now, I don't know all the details in particular of allowing the post office to do it. I'm not sure why the post office needs to do it. Yeah, without knowing why the post office needs to do it, leave it where it is. Balthazar, Bill was smeared all over that dress. Hillary Clinton was the only thing Democrats can hashtag resist this change. You could also tie it to inflation tied to living wage. Oh, that's a good idea, Balthazar. Like, whatever it needs in order to keep that wage decent and living for those people to live off. Yeah. I guess my basic point is, should people be able to live in a society or not? Yes or no? Should they be able to, if they work their entire life, at the very least, I believe everybody should have a place to stay and something to eat. Full stop. I don't care if the person just decides they want to play Xbox all day. I don't believe that you should have people living in dire straits if your society can afford to not have people live in dire straits. Now, that being said, we're not talking about those people. We're talking about people who worked their entire life. They're retired. Congratulations. You did something that was a benefit to this society, be it big or small. It was a benefit to the society. Congratulations. Thank you very much. We are going to assist you in this with a token of our appreciation. Social Security. You've earned it. Shouldn't it be somewhat enough for those people that have a decent living? That's all I'm asking. I think the answer should be yes. I think it should be yes. The idea of having a workers' corps, even if it's volunteer, is ridiculous to me. If an elderly group, and I'm saying ridiculous because my feeling is they've worked their entire life. If you want to have something like that, then have something like that. You don't necessarily have to have it to be the elderly. Just pay people a decent wage for doing the job, not necessarily a volunteer job. It's like you're taking other people's job. You want to create a volunteer corps in which people volunteer as opposed to actually paying people a decent wage to do what you're trying to get these people to do. Let the elderly live their life doing whatever they want to do in peace. They don't need you to do that. If you really have something that you need somebody to do as a job, pay them. Pay them. Pay them handsomely. Pay them decently. You're the government of the United States. You can afford it. Jesus Christ. The moderates. The moderates. Jamal, selling us to board resistance is futile. I'm not selling you to board. Russian bot because Russia is famous for robots. Russia is famous for robots. Beltazar. Hope and change. Hope that the status quo and lesser evil is good enough and change for your pockets because your paycheck is split with employer. Surplus value. Surplus value. You're making an argument of surplus value. I love it. I love it. I sent you a shortchanged email? What? The solidarity of no. That should be emancipation. What do you not remember? The 80s giant robot animated television series and the Transformer tour marketing Russia? Mikhailovich Bayovich. What? Mikhailovich Bayovich. Michael Bayovich. Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Mikhailovich Bayovich. Michael Bay. Michael Bay. My taxes, along with both my late husbands, pay my Social Security. So do mine. I understand that Marxism is, I lived it for 29 years. When you talk about $15 minimum wage, I assume the privately owned business owner pays that. That's not socialism or communism. No, that's capitalism. At that point, it's just capitalism. I mean, look, part of the key difference, I think, between this capitalistic idea and the socialistic idea, especially along the thing of wages. The capitalists, Democrats, believe that they can constrain capitalism using law. Like, you can make rules and guidelines and policies that constrain the beast of capitalism as it's trying to get out of the cage. Now, they believe this, despite all of the chaos that comes of it. Like, so ExxonMobil ignores research that tells it that it's destroying the world. The world is at stake. And ExxonMobil is like, oh, man, this is going to cut out profits as this gets out. Think about what I'm saying to you. They're engaged in a business process. In this business process, they learn that they are destroying the world. They're doing something that's destabilizing the climate and the environment itself. And instead of saying, whoa, 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 we need to stop this. The world is at stake. There's a societal problem that's going to befall all of us if we keep doing what we're doing right now. ExxonMobil wasn't a good citizen, but they were a good capitalist. And as a good capitalist, they say, look, I got 40 years left on this planet. I got to get mine. So we need to bury this report and fuck the world. Because if this report comes up within the next 40 years of my life, I'm not going to be able to make as much bang for buck as I can possibly make. Exxon, in that case, that guy, the good capitalist that said, fuck the world, I'm going to get mine. It's not just Exxon. Each and every capitalist that's on the planet is given that particular choice to some degree. The capitalist is making your hamburgers at McDonald's. Oh, this is some pink slime, but fuck it, I gotta make bang for my buck. I'm not gonna be here forever. I'm not gonna live forever. I gotta make bang for my buck. Who cares? What comes after me? I gotta make mine. I gotta get mine. I gotta earn as much as I can possibly make. I understand that the people coming in and eating this shit is gonna get cancer at some point, but I gotta make mine. The quagmire of the capitalist. Do you want to actually pay attention to something that may have a societal defect, or do you want to make your cash? Why do we put people in that weird quagmire and dilemma? And is that the dilemma that you really want people in? The Democratic Party says yes, they can control it. Socialists are not as trusting. So, I don't know of a single Democrat that privatizes Social Security. Well, the previous Democrat, Bill Clinton, as far as I know, he's still alive. And Bill Clinton was definitely on board for it. I would say talk to your blue dog Democrats, Joe Manchin and everything else. You honestly believe, tell me, you honestly believe that if Joe Manchin was given an option of privatizing Social Security, that Joe Manchin wouldn't privatize it? And my point here is not that they are privatizing it. My point here is that the privatized employer-funded universal pension is going to be used as a transition item or artifact to destroy Social Security. That's my point. And that's exactly what it's going to be used for. This is Democrats, moderates, pitching this. And so this title is absolutely right. Moderate Democrats push plan that'll lead to the privatization of Social Security. What's the debate? It's true. Progressive tax rates would do nothing if we're still funding the military at the current rates. Agreed, Baltazar. Agreed, agreed, agreed. Thank you, Monica. Yeah. Monica Lewinsky took a hit for the country on that one. She took a hit for the country. But Jamal, how are we supposed to increase the military budget next year? Tim Flowbuck, oh, you mean like, how can we pay for all this stuff and still increase the military budget? That is the dilemma, right? That is the dilemma. Stories at the bottom, Joe. Yes, Obama hinted at it. Privatize Social Security. Yeah, I'm always amazed that Democrats will say that. They'll be like, I don't know anybody who wants to privatize Social Security. Well, hey, you need to pay more attention to the people in your party. Democrats will support whatever you whisper in their ear while slipping cash in their pockets. That's why they passed the Heritage Foundation healthcare reform. Yeah. And by the way, Clinton was also going to pass a tax cut. So Bernie wanted to primary him for it. I don't blame him. Monica went down on Bill Sins. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. We took a hit, all right. The Jack headquarters. Yeah, man. Look, this is my point. You have Democrats pushing this idea of pay as you go, essentially still believing that expenses and this kind of austerity is the way they go about their system. That's insane by itself. And yeah, I stand by this. This plan of the moderates. Plan of the moderates. This is NBC News. This is not me, some flaming right-wing news article. NBC News. This article recently came out. Some of the key initiatives are a massive apprenticeship program to train workers, a privatized employer-funded universal pension that's going to compete with Social Security. Literally going to compete with Social Security. They could have just as well said, we're just going to increase Social Security, but they didn't do that. They're talking about a system that is literally going to run contrary to Social Security itself. Think for the moment. Republicans have been attacking Social Security relentlessly. We don't even know if they're going to be able to get rid of Social Security now just based on what they have in Congress. They may not have enough time, but they might. The moment that you have a secondary system that's running contrary, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? What is the argument that they're going to make? Not just that. Think about Obama. Yeah, that works. That's a good argument. When Obama was running against whoever he was running, I think Romney, he never took down his political operation, meaning he kept his political operation going. One of the things that drained money away from the Democratic Party was Obama for America. Essentially because both of those systems was running concurrently with one another, the money was being drained into Obama's organization. The Democratic Party's apparatus at that point started to go in debt. When Hillary Clinton came, at that point she could take the party over because they were so in debt that she could just essentially buy them. I'm being hyperbolic in the way I'm using my language, but for all intents and purposes, that is true. She was able to pay the bills, and in paying the bills, the decisions essentially came to New York. Having two concurrent organizations that are fundamentally doing the same thing, what do you think is going to happen? You have a privatized version. It's not that the privatized version is better, by the way. It's that they're using that as a transition to destroy Social Security. That's all. That's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making. What are you talking about, dude? It's right here. I've highlighted it. Do a search on the page. Do a Control F and put in some of the key. And when you put in some of the key, it's going to take you to this part that I'm showing you. That's in the story. So, whether you can find it in the story or not, it's there. And the fact that it's there, meaning the moderates I think a big initiative idea is to create a system that is going to run contrary to Social Security, or going to run in parallel to Social Security. And what I'm telling you is, if you have a system that is running parallel to Social Security, and you have people who are in government who relentlessly attack Social Security, the attack is going to turn around to be, why do we need it? We have this secondary thing, and let's just give money to the secondary thing, and let's just get rid of Social Security. Seeing as the Democratic Party has a history of trying to get rid of Social Security, it makes perfect sense in the world that this particular edifice is going to be used as a transition. That's my argument. That argument is sound. That argument is completely sound. Let's see. Tentacle porn keeps me from infidelity. Oh God, next prez. That's so gross. That's so gross. Yeah, Joe, that's true. And Obama draining money from and Hillary needed funds, needed to fundraise against amount of debt. Well, it wasn't Hillary that needed to fundraise. Hillary was going to fundraise because Hillary was going to fundraise. The DNC was in debt. That's what I said. And for the most part, she was giving him enough money for the life support. This is what Donna Brazile said. This is not me making it up. Jesus Christ. Supplement is a step towards replacement. Yes. That's my point. Supplement means almost the exact opposite of replace. Yeah, you guys, you missed the point. You missed the boat. Mail your congressman tentacle porn until they stop privatizing Social Security. Oh God, that's so gross. That's so gross. Republicans are always trying to get rid of the post office. Would they try to get rid of the post office if there wasn't a FedEx, or if there wasn't a UPS? Maybe. If a business came up that could replace the post office. I'm trying to make this point to you. That part of the reason of this kind of idea of a secondary process to do X is essentially a transition phase into Y. Baltazar. Bezos could have a 100% income tax rate and still spend $1 billion a year and not run out of money. Yeah, before he died. This is before considering tax. Yeah, he's fucking amazing. 401k and 457 plans were already put into place to privatize pensions out of existence. This is just more of the same scamming. It's the idea of a moderate. All things being equal, I'm not against. My issue with this is, why do you need it? If you're going to give, you don't need a supplement to Social Security. Expand Social Security. A privatized employer-funded universal pension that would supplement Social Security. Expand Social Security. Why do you need to do that? If you're going to say it's employee-funded, fine. Increase the amount that's going to Social Security and expand the amount of money that's going to people for Social Security. You don't need this. This is somewhat, why do you need a privatized version of this? You don't. You don't. It's a plan of moderates. Plan of moderates. The big ideas of moderates. Bernie wants POs to be banks, post offices to be banks because of poor neighborhoods. Yeah, he wants them to be able to get to the thing. Jamal, resist is in the title, but honestly, given the depths of corruption and the sophistication of modern advertising manipulation, do you see the gross empire's downward slide reversing? I don't. No. Look, this is what I think is going to happen. They would advertise as, hey, this is great, this is great, this is great. And there would be a slow slide that chips away at Social Security. And eventually it would come to a point of saying, hey, we have this other thing here. Why do we need this Social Security? This is a vestige of the New Deal. These lefties are in the, are old time. They need to go into the new time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Post service now only available to Amazon Prime members. Postal service. We need more public banks. We do need more public banks. Agreed. Agreed. If Cortez won New York without entering, Corbyn wins 2020. Can you imagine that? The country writes in Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, God, that would be fucking hilarious. Social Security is fine. They just don't want to pay it back They still want workers to keep payroll taxes, though. I mean, so I have no issue with Social Security. If I'm being honest, it should be expanded. I don't understand moderates. The language in this is slippery, so it depends to some degree what they mean by the language. I don't like the America Corps, a boomer corps. I think that's so ridiculous. If there are jobs that need to be done, pay the people for the jobs. They shouldn't be volunteers. And let the elderly do what the elderly do. If you really need to create jobs like this, or if there are jobs that could be done by somebody, then let it be done. You don't have to allow the elderly to do it for free. Yeah, I don't like the proposal to just... It's the proposal of a moderate that doesn't really solve anything. It's their way of trying to combat what lefties are saying, and I think it's somewhat nonsense. I'll say it one more time for the people just getting here. Massive apprenticeship to train workers. Again, it depends on how it's done. If this is just giving a bunch of money to private employers, then no, I'm not for it. I'm not for it. At that point, you're just giving money away. Privatize employer-funded universal pension. Again, why are you doing this? If you want to do it, just expand Social Security. If that's what you're going to do, just expand Social Security. It sounds like that's what you're trying to get across anyway, but that's not what you're doing. You're creating another privatized system that runs in parallel with Social Security. Why? Why are you creating a contrary system? Just expand the amount going to Social Security. Raise the limit to what? 200,000. I think it's 100,000 now, or 250,000, whatever that number needs to be to expand the benefits. Why are you creating a parallel system? Again, that's weird. Overhaul employment insurance to include skill training. Again, I'm even against that, because education, what you're talking about is just education. Increase public schooling, meaning allow people to go to school, to 4-year schools for free. Meaning you have certain public schooling that people can go to. Anybody, any random guy, it could be a hobo on the street without a dime to his name, can walk in and go to school. You eliminate stuff like this when you have that. Anybody, whatever that is. If that person wants to finish a particular job, hates that job, you can go and get skills for something else. Congratulations, you're an American. Hey, even if you don't want it to be 4-year, 2-year. I'm making the point that it is a grossly imperfect position to just have unemployment insurance to include skill training. Why would you want skill training just as an absolute? I don't know what a small business bill of rights is. And boomer core, these people work their entire lives. After working their entire life, hey, join a boomer core for no money. Sure, we'll do that. What about the jobs that you believe that the boomer core were going to do? What about allowing just regular Americans who need a job to do those jobs? And to go out and do whatever you were going to have the boomer core do. And allow the elderly with their expanded Social Security to enjoy the rest of their life. But again, these are plans of moderates. These are plans of moderates. And look, again, and one more part, one thing I do agree with them on is that the lefties, they are pushing stuff that came back from the 40s or whatever. That's true. I mean, the federal jobs guarantee, that is an FDR thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad because it was in the 40s. It needs to be expanded to include worker co-ops, meaning the workers themselves own the businesses. Now, the reason I say that, I think that's important. In fact, I think that's almost more important that lefties are focusing on that, because that allows higher wages. It prevents those jobs from being shipped overseas. And beyond that, it gets rid of the elites that are part of corporations. Something that you would never get a Democrat to do, because that's not necessarily their modus operandi. Kinky, I like that name. And I just miss it. Ward Media and Entertainment. FDR got elected 3 times. Yes, he did. I thought it was 4. I could be wrong. You Americans need to understand that those Americans who are anti-war, would it surprise you if the anti-war candidates started World War III? Yes and no. Oh, you mean Trump? No, no, it wouldn't surprise me if Trump started World War III. I don't think Trump is anti-war, though. He was just anti-war with Russia. That's the difference. DXR, all you need to do is give a super chat and he will see your comment. He's not ignoring you on purpose. No, I'm not ignoring anybody. Just the things are looping through. What are you saying, DXR? Jamal, you're promoting wage labor. What are you talking about? He's now his own censor. I'm taking a break from this Jamal discussion board. Well, I gotta be honest with you. I tend to ignore comments that are in bold, if that makes sense. When you're capitalizing your comments, I tend to ignore the comments. If the person is screaming that loud, I usually ignore it. It's like somebody in a bar screaming. I tend to ignore the person who's in a bar screaming. They're not saying anything I want to hear. Maybe ignoring shouting on purpose. Yeah, that's it, Winsley. That's literally it. Balthazar, I'm going to make a tutorial on OBS Streamlabs for you. Holy shit, yes, I would. Yes, do that. Actually, don't do that, Balthazar. I'll look it up. You don't need to do that. I'll find a thing on it. I love some cool loud noises. That's funny. The country had moved right into 1990s, so that's why the Democratic Party moved right. The country, yes, kind of. Yes. So look, this is what I would agree with you on, Joe. The Ronald Reagan was a bellwether president. No, he was a paradigm changing president. Him and Thatcher. And it was enough of a paradigm change to, yeah, affect the Democratic Party. I agree. That I agree with you. I do agree with you on it. That said, you can't call yourself a Democrat and then try to nick Social Security. Come on, you got to give me that. We disagree a lot, but you got to give me that. Pat Cook, the nation, the United States Special Forces now operating in 70% of the world's countries. Yes, putting a huge target on their backs. Yes, that's true. Anyone sign up on Discord to support Julian, Laura H. Sign up on Discord. I don't know if I signed up on Discord. I've been talking to him about it, though. Bob Ramirez, worker co-ops are exempt from minimum wage and thus worker protection laws. Oh, I see. Here's the thing, though. I mean, you have a bunch of people who decide to work in a factory or a company together. Those people have more agency in regards to what they're doing, and those people are making higher wages. There's no CEO that's sucking all of the money to the top. There should be wage, of course, they should be subject to minimum wage laws, of course. Fucking yes, of course. But my point remains. Ultimately, the amount of money that's being generated in those companies are not necessarily going to one person or to the top. It's going to the company itself. Let's see. What did Gardner say? The only way working class can get out of the crisis that capitalism is by its own abolition. It's by its own abolition. That's a question. You asked me a question. Wait, is that a question? I don't know how the working class get out of its own crisis. Like, I don't know why the working class accepts this paradigm at all. I mean, I understand it from the standpoint of people are born and raised in a society, and being born and raised in that society, they take on the attributes of this society as right, wrong, public pressure, and all this other stuff kind of end up with people kind of contorting in their roles. Not to mention, if they don't work, they don't eat. And the society thinks that that's perfectly okay to have people to go hungry or other people to be magnificently wealthy. But it's weird to me that we're okay with that. I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you get out that. I mean, I don't know how that changes other than this kind of just mass organization where the public raises its consciousness and realizes, oh my God, we're getting screwed. I don't know how you get to that point. I don't know how you get to that point. All right, what's happening? There seems to be something's happening. Did anyone see Rand Paul versus Sanders debate on Russia? Yes. Yes, I did. I'm going to do that video. Tim Flobuck. No, Tim, I haven't seen it yet. I'll check it. I haven't been on Twitter like talking about. I've just been looking at articles and posting stuff. All right. Yes, I've seen the debate with Sanders and Rand Paul. It's going to hurt me to play that debate, but I'm going to play that debate. It was painful to watch Bernie Sanders do that. It was painful to watch. but fuck it, we'll watch it. Individual smaller groups is how you get to that point. Dicks are individual small groups, but I don't know what that means. Like, so let's say the Ukraine. Let's take the Ukraine, for example. After World War One, I think it was World War One. After World War One, Ukraine tries to set up its anarchist dream state. These free men, that's where they were going to be. These free people in this particular area, and they were willing to fight to protect that anarchist state. The problem with this was you had other states that were bigger that didn't care that it was trying to set up an anarchist state and just took it. Just outright took it. Russia, outright took it. The Red Army. Smaller groups. I don't know how smaller groups does that in the face of larger enemies. That's all. I feel you. I get what you're saying. But somewhat difficult. Che Guevara was killed by the help of the CIA under Lyndon Johnson. Yeah. Jamal might have to throw away his Sanders bib after this. Bernie towing the line is more obvious. Oh, God, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. HR 3057. So I did look up HR 3057, Balthazar. And I was going to do a video on Barbara Lee. I think DXR is pushing libertarianism. Is he? If you are DXR, I would agree with half of what you're saying. With the other half, I would think outright absurd. But did you get my email on FOSS worker co-ops? Mark P. Maybe, I think. I haven't checked my email. I've been at the doctor's all day. I'll check your email in a few, Mark, after this video. It may look spiffy until you realize that worker co-ops are just libertarian wet dream. No 401k eligibility, no social security. This can be the worst of the worst employment scenarios. So here's the thing, Bob. I agree with you. If it's a hellscape, then yeah, of course I don't agree. But the regulations and everything else, yeah, those things would have to be the same as if they were going with a regular job. I don't push the worker co-ops because I'm talking about worse options. I'm pushing them because I'm saying that the employees in those jobs are no longer in a totalitarian system. They are taking part in the decisions of that system. I have a hard time believing that they would give themselves worst options, but then I guess the argument is, then why do people in society give each other worst options? Yeah, they would have to be the same rules and regulations, but I'm saying in general, their pay is going to be better. They're not going to be moved. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily get rid of capitalism, at least not in an overt way. But it does, if held out to fruition, meaning, you know, one company after the next, kind of like a virus, expands into the host. What you will find is that the rate or the distinction between the rich and the poor levels out to a degree, at least from the standpoint of the people who are working. You're not getting people making these monster salaries. Most of wealth is inherited at this point, so maybe that net wealth isn't going to go anywhere unless their wealth is taxed. But from the standpoint of people like making $20 million working at a company, that would be unfounded. Nobody would ever do something like that. The people would typically get higher rates of pay, and the employees themselves would have decisions in the operations of those companies. I'm saying if the left is pulling anything, they need to push something like this. It should be a must. Otherwise, they are only looking back to the 50s. Understand, part of the problem here is the tension between the workers versus their bosses. You contain or maintain that relationship between the plutocratic class, or the 1%, and everybody else. The boss and the master, the feudal lord versus the serf, the slave versus the master. That relationship needs to be broken. And that relationship is not going to be broken until this idea of the elite is scrubbed from the process. One of the steps, one of the planks, the first step in doing that is to have the totalitarian system that is the way we go about our employment opportunities to be dissolved. Be dissolved. I don't have this expectation that somebody's going to walk into a room, make a law, and say, okay, all companies are now public. But I do think there's something to be said for the federal government assisting in the creation of worker co-ops, assisting in any company that wants to sell itself to, at the very least, have to sell itself to the workers first. There are policies that we can put in place to try to help this along. without being heavy-handed in the way we go about it. And yeah, the same worker protections would have to apply, but I would wager to you that the worker protections at those companies will be much, much higher, that the workers' delight in working there will be much, much higher. I almost guarantee it. All right, let's see. What did DXR say? I don't want you to think I was ignoring you, DXR. If it leads to self-emancipation of the working class, then I'm fine. DXR, I agree. The thing is, so there are two parts, DXR. The problem of our society is not one of work, even though it is one of work. And I know that sounds weird. I'm saying two different things, even though I'm not. Yeah, that sounds weird. I know it sounds like I'm saying two different things. But both are true. One of the weird parts about the Avengers was Thanos. Thanos was a bizarre character. And if you look at the movie, you can say that movie makes no fucking sense. Thanos had absolute power of space, matter, and time. He had the glove. He could do anything he wanted. He could go anywhere. He could be anywhere. He could be in any reality frame that he wanted to be in. He controlled the entire edifice that is reality itself. Space, matter, time, mind, soul, everything. He had it all. In the comic books, he ends up having a fight with eternity. Eternity being everything within the fabric of the universe. If you had to think of, Marvel has these allegories or these avatars. So it's like order, chaos, eternity. You have all of these different things that represents these aspects of the universe that has this kind of avatar of its will. So in this particular case, he gets into a fight with eternity. This is how powerful Thanos is. Thanos with the goddamn love. He's amazing. This man who is this amazing, this bright, this fantastic in regards to his intellect decides that in order to get rid of pain, he kills half of the universe. Do you know how stupid this is? How can this man that's this bright, this agile of mind, how on earth, with all of this power at his disposal, how on earth does he come to such a ridiculous conclusion that the way that he needs to get rid of poverty and pain and suffering is half of the universe? Now, the reason why we think this is stupid, if somebody is walking out the auditorium, is he could have just made that stuff. He could have put a plate of food on everybody's plate. He could have put a program into the basis of the universe itself to say that certain things was going to be created on somebody's dinner table anytime they were hungry and wanted food. He could have did that. He could have said nobody will be hungry ever again. That was him. He could have did that. He could have said any being that's exposed to sunlight will absorb the energy in their skin, which means they would never go hungry and their body would never essentially die just from non-sustenance. There were all sorts of clever solutions that Thanos could have used, but Thanos didn't do that. Thanos took the blunt force approach of just saying, I'm going to get rid of half of the universe. Now, the other half, to some degree, still has to suffer, still has to scrape, still have to work. And to some degree, you could have even said he's hiding the pain of the universe depending upon the people he got rid of. My point in saying this is, for some degree, this is an allegory for us. Human beings have the capacity of technology. An argument can be made that the glove that Thanos has is just technology. It's technological innovation. This ability to food, clothing, water, shelter, and to use the materials at your disposal to make other things that you need. Man has gone beyond the point of needing things. Like we've literally hit that point where our technological skill, if we applied our technological acumen, could get rid of hunger, poverty, all those things. Like this idea of war. War and poverty at this point is a choice. And it's a choice that we make constantly. You have people in the richest country on the planet taking a dump on the street because they don't have anywhere to live. I'm saying that Thanos with the glove is essentially us. We have technological innovation. We have the materials to make sure people have the things they need. We just don't do it. And we come up with the reason to justify not doing it. We even come up with justifications. Imagine the justification of the slave master saying, but you're taking away my slave? How dare you, sir? You're taking away my slave. Anything that was earned, or anything that was made essentially was taken from somewhere. It is insane that our society allows poverty to this degree. And it's insane that we stand by while others have so much wealth. That we are Thanos with the glove. I don't know how you get people to break through the thinking in the same way of Thanos. Well, I guess the point I'm making here is it didn't occur to him that he could fix this in another way. Whatever his reasons. Maybe he was biased. Maybe he just didn't like people. Maybe he was a psychopath just from the beginning. Maybe the ethics on this planet didn't necessarily see that as a negative. Meaning, they might have thought it was okay to kill people if those people were poor because it was more ethical for them to die as opposed to live in poverty. Look, those things are up for grabs. Who the hell knows? But that's what he chose. We make a similar choice. A head tax on Amazon and the most profitable jobs juxtaposed against the people living on the street in Seattle. And the society itself chose the head tax. I mean, they chose to allow the people sleep on the streets as opposed to a head tax on the millionaires in the area. So, I don't know. I don't know how you change it. I don't know how you change it. Not linking up on our own terms, we link up to form a mass of one action. I see. Superpowers is always being wrong. God knows superpowers is... That's actually pretty funny. God knows superpowers always being wrong. That's hilarious. Baltazar, if Hillary Clinton has a glove, then she's definitely lost reality, Jim. You know what I love about this? The people on my channel are geeks enough to know what happened in the comic book for the reality thing, for the Thanos stuff. I love it. I love it. Jamal, Gordon Mack did a video regarding TYT silence about Julian Assange. Can you? I saw his video. I don't like to piggyback on videos like that, but I did see his video on this. Well, I saw that he did the video. I didn't see the video. I don't know if TYT has said anything about Julian. I do know they use... Maybe. We extricate capital from production in general. Extricate capital from the DXR. Look, I'm not against you on this. Like I know what you're saying. The catch is public. The catch is always public. Like, how do you get the public, this kind of revolutionary fire, to think that something is wrong enough where it needs to take place? It's part of the reason why political parties always... Did you remember, I think it was after the election, I think it was, no, it was after the presidential State of the Union address. And I forgot who the Republicans got to give the State of the Union. It might have been Mike Pence. But he described America as like a hellscape, like demons were walking the earth. And it was just like swiping his arms and taking up babies and eating their hearts out on live television. Like, he was saying America as if the world was coming to an end tomorrow, now that Obama was given the State of the Union. Like, oh God. But they do that because they try to get this thing of something needs to change. This other guy is tearing this shit apart. We need to change it. The problem with that line of politically fighting is that it's not fully a contextual view of reality. The view of reality that's trying to create is purely just say, oh my God, look how bad things are. Sometimes things are that bad. Sometimes they're not. But that's such a scorched earth way of going about politics. But that's the way they go about politics. My superpowers is to make people reject TYT. Shank has been rapid today on Twitter, screaming Russia, Jamal. I shared your video and a few of his tweets. Oh, that's hilarious, Fred Edwards. Oh, thank you. That's funny. Look, I consider that to be the demarcation point. Because what matters? Like, what matters? Honestly, what matters? What matters? There is no way to know what's true. That's the way I look at the world. There's no way to know what's perfectly true. What may take place based on what you think to happen historically, based on what you think people have a propensity for. But I'm more guided by What do I want the world to look like? Like, accepting for the moment that I can't know what's true. There's no way. So once I accept that premise, like, fine. Where does the evidence lead you to be what's more true than not? And also, in addition, what's more true than not? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Is there an end goal that you're trying to accomplish? My issue with the way some, and I don't know if this is true or not, so take it with a grain of salt, but it feels like some of the lefties who are running for office don't have an end goal. It's purely just, oh, I'm going to move towards healthcare. But why? Why are you moving towards healthcare? Because I just want to move towards healthcare. Is there an overarching goal in what you're trying to accomplish? And that's what I think is more important. That gets you to where you're trying to go. These pivots, where a Democrat would pivot on a certain point because Trump hates it. But where's your core? Where's your center? Where's the thing that you actually believe in? Because you're going to pivot all over the place and nobody knows what the fuck you believe in. As opposed to saying, my tether is here, and anything that I do and anywhere that I go, for the most part, I'm tethered to this particular humanistic experience. Just saying. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? We need libertarians to monitor our libertarians. Wait. We need libertarians to monitor our libertaries. Oh, that's funny. Liberties. I was like, libertaries. Libertaries. Yeah, that's funny, Balthazar. Kinky. I would like to applaud Balthazar for his generous and steadfast support of alternative media perspectives. Thank you so much. Balthazar, thank you indeed. And Kinky, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, you have no idea how much I appreciate it. And just make sure I didn't miss anything. Tentacle porn keeps me from infidelity. Jesus Christ. That's a rough one. That's a rough one. Tentacle porn. All right. Why do you believe the political system will solve the world issues? I don't know if I believe the political... I don't know if I believe the political system will solve the world issues. If that makes sense. That's a tough one, because it's not... What do you mean by political system? So let's define our terms. Do I believe that the current political model that we have today will solve our issues? No. This model is fucked. I don't think it works. There's too many contradictions in the way that it goes about its affairs. The model eats itself to some degree for sport. Like, take Donald Trump, for example. Or better yet, take a better example. Republicans not putting up the Supreme Court pick. That's a big fucking deal. That's a major breach of protocol. The governmental apparatus says the people in this particular apparatus are to do X. The Republican Party said there's nothing to compel us to do X, so we're just not going to do it because it's not favorable to us as a party. Well, this is problematic because it completely breaks the model that we consider to be government. Yes, you can make an argument that says it is within their purview to do that, meaning they have the power to do that, clearly, but it breaks what's considered to be good practice in government. They did it flagrantly, and there was no consequence from them doing that. Not just no consequence. Gorish is sitting on that seat now. Take it a different way. The cheating of Sanders. Now, this is the Democratic Party coming out saying we're going to be fair and equal in the way that we go about it. Hillary Clinton ends up breaking campaign finance laws by having money laundered through the parties. Nobody does anything. They look at it, give it a pass. Go back further. Obama getting in office after Bush has been torturing human beings, breaking human beings. Many of the people being tortured weren't even affiliated with anybody, meaning Gina Haspel, Bloody Gina, is sitting as the head of the CIA right now. Some of the people that she tortured and then destroyed the records for were innocent, completely innocent. No consequence. They know she destroyed the records. No consequence. Everybody knew that Bush tortured human beings. That's against the law and against international law. No consequence. Obama said for whatever reason in this particular case, he's looking forward in time And it's not looking back at the crimes that were committed that ended up getting 1 million people killed. No consequence. If you're asking me, do I believe that our governmental structure is going to fix the world? The governmental structure can't even fix itself. So no, I don't have this belief that a capitalistic system that really only goes with this idea of maximizing its own profit is somehow going to fix the issues. We have homelessness. So there's homelessness in California where people are taking dumps on the streets. That's not just California. That's the entire country. You have bridges that are falling down. I'm trying to make the point that the country, the governmental apparatus itself that is vested with making sure that the country itself is safe, secure, and that the people themselves are safe and secure and to some degree happy, is failing on that job because of the capitalistic advancements of the people in the political class. Or I shouldn't say that. Let's say the collusion between the capitalists and the political class. That's more succinct. So no, I don't think that the governmental system, the way it is now, is going to fix itself. But that doesn't mean that it's never going to fix itself. Like, that doesn't mean that at some point there may be some organization at the end of the life of the United States, maybe at the point of some gigantic war where the area shifts and we're 1,000 years into the future and the people cobble themselves together again from the ashes. Maybe. Maybe. I don't function with the belief that this is all going to work out. I don't. I function because I don't necessarily think of anything else to do. It's like you have time on this earth, you got to use it somehow. I would rather push back the night, even if I think that the night is inevitable. So, I hope that makes sense. Desire to be free of capitalist relations, yes. DXR, yes. Yes. It's fucking hand in hand in the sun on that one. You know, when I started, I used to always chafe at the jobs that I worked. And I used to chafe at the jobs that I worked because I felt like all of the labor that you're doing is going to somebody else's pocket. And not just going to somebody else's pocket, everything that you do, the way that you dress, things that you say, like all of those things are cut in lines with that specific thing. You are essentially under the thumb of a capitalist, of a totalitarian regime. And they pretend as if this is some level of freedom. And they're smiling at you. I guess they are smiling at you because you're being exploited. And they're getting you coffee, and people think because they're getting coffee that the greatest thing on the planet. Oh my God! They're so nice! They have donuts on Tuesday! Look at this! This is the greatest place ever. Oh, I'm so happy with my boss. I love my boss. It's like, yeah, but your labor is being used in order to make him rich. Him giving you donuts is nice. That's quaint. That's quaint. It's like, why are you happy with a system where you spend all of your time working for someone else? Why? Why? Why is that? Why are you complacent with that? And I suspect part of it is just this is all they know. This is all everybody knows. So this is what they're accustomed to. When I stopped doing the software and I started doing this longer, I started doing this more. And it was like, all right, I'll fasten my belt. It was something somebody else told me one day when they started working remotely or for themselves. He says, yeah, I fastened my belt. He said, because I knew I was going to go hungry for a bit. He said, but I figured I love doing this more than I love doing the other thing. And so I'm going to try it. And so I kind of took advice. I took his advice. Now, the thing that I realized was weird. The two things that was weird. The first thing was this feeling of incompletion. And the feeling of incompletion came more along the lines of because you're so accustomed to doing something for so many years that the moment that you stop doing it, you're like, oh God, I'm missing something. The other part came along this idea of freedom. Even though it's a faux freedom, it's a pseudo freedom. But there's some degree of freedom. What I mean by that is when you wake up in the morning, it's like, what do you want to do? I want to do the news. Great. You're going to do the news. Now, if that means I need to research, then you sit there and you research. If that means you're doing a story on the spot, you do the story on the spot. But you're choosing. It's to some degree it's different. It's not the same, and it takes a little bit to get used to that. But it's something that everybody should experience, as opposed to being under the thumb of some capitalists. They make you choose a plantation. Imagine for the moment a society where your basic needs were met regardless of what took place. You always had somewhere to stay. And at worst, you would always have something to eat. You would always have electricity in your house. Your basic needs are met. Now, what does it mean to be free in the context of this society versus that society? If you wanted to go gallivanting around the world, you're not going to get money to go gallivanting around the world. Your basic needs are met. Trying to create this disparity between this idea of you being forced, compelled by your needs, into some plantation or job, half of the country of which is being poverty or low wage, and even a large part of the country not even basic needs met. Compared to a society where your basic needs are met, where this idea of poverty is, nobody knows what that means. Poverty, what? Poverty is looked at like slavery is back in the Roman era. Like, I'm trying to give you this idea of a society and how your society can be. Your society doesn't have to be this cruel in this way, in the way it goes about its affairs. Take a next step from that. Do you have anybody working at McDonald's in a society where people have their needs met? And if that is true, if that answer is no, you don't have people working at McDonald's, then right off the bat, how can you say that the people who are working at McDonald's are free? They're working somewhere where they absolutely hate, and they're doing it only because they need to make ends meet. What happens when those people have the capacity to make their needs met? I'm trying to show the difference between freedom in a more real sense versus what we consider to be freedom in this country, which is essentially working in a totalitarian state or government or corporation for 50, 60 hours, the best hours of your day. So, yeah, man, that's a tangent. That's a major tangent. Imagination is everything. Without imagination, freedom of mind cannot be attained. Agreed. Yes. Part of the reason why I used to have my 420s, at least some of them, was because I wanted people to realize in their heads that the world could be different. Why do you think religions are often the thing of the vehicle for change? Like, part of it is organization, but part of it is don't allow the physical matter reality that you encounter daily to completely cripple your imagination from what things can be. It's something that we should take hold of and go on about our affairs. So, taxes on working people in Connecticut were crushing, had to move. I don't think taxes should be on working people. I think taxes should be increased on the upper class. No, I don't think you should add taxes to people who are already struggling to make ends meet. I mean, the guy has, what, $600 or they say $500, can't afford it. No, you don't tax that guy. You don't tax that guy. You tax the guy that has a 15% tax rate, or you tax the guy to say there's a upper number to which we would allow people to accrue wealth. Hey, maybe you say anything above, I think FDR had like a 99% tax rate on incomes beyond a certain point. Yeah. Right now, the poor subsidize the rich. Yes, agreed. Agreed. Sometimes the owner of the company lets us clean out the dog kennels and keep any scraps. Right. Right. I remember they used to, at Christmas, they used to say, hey, here's $50. Aren't you happy working here? And you're like, thanks, motherfucker. Thanks. I'm not of mind that I'm doing well. I'm of mind that you're exploiting the fuck out of the people here. So, thanks, asshole. Puppy Poop Tuesdays. I was anti-religion until I came to the same conclusion that religions are vehicles for change. Yeah, agreed. Not the magic, but the mutual philosophy of how we should be easily shared. Yeah, agreed. Like, I don't like the Jesus-y stuff. You know, don't give me Jesus. When I was in the hospital, I remember laying there, and my mom, being of the Christian religious type, she would, I guess, talk to the ministers because I guess she needed some level of counsel because of the shit that was going on. And every so often, a preacher would come. Now, this was during that weird intermediary time where a boy becomes a man And as that boy becomes a man, that boy becomes far more rebellious and more stick-to-itive to his own disposition of this is what I want or this is what I don't want. And I love you to death, but fuck no. That type. Meaning getting to that point. I didn't like people visiting me in the hospital as is. So you can imagine somebody coming to the hospital, and at that point I was extremely anti-religious, like extreme anti-religious. And the guy comes into the hospital, and I'm like, I appreciate you coming, but you don't need to come in. Now, at this point, I got like IVs and shit on me and all this other stuff. And he's like, no, I'll come in. So right off the bat, I'm saying something. I'm asserting my will, and he's ignoring the will that I'm asserting. Fine. I walk out the room. I grab my IV pole. I pull my gown behind my back with this little bit of ass cheek flailing. And I walk out. Now, my mom is like, oh my God. He was like, I can't believe you did that. It's like, I told you not to bring him here. I know, but there's no but. The consequences for you bringing here were you was getting embarrassed with this guy standing in there praying to himself. Either listen to me or don't. But there's a consequence. This was during the time where you assert yourself. She never did that again. And it's not about being a dick, if that makes sense. But there is something to be said about what do you want outside of separate of other people. What do you want? And what's the point? If you're going to feel miserable because the person is mad at you, or you're going to feel miserable because you essentially were stepped on, I'd rather be miserable because the person was mad at me. At that point, I can make the argument that you should have listened to what I said. Yeah, I was extremely anti-religious at that point. But at some point, I came to the same conclusion. That the way people get over in situations where they believe that nothing can change. This will always be this way. Nothing will ever change in this particular world because from the standpoint of us, it seems like things change extremely slowly, if not at all. And when things are in bad situations, it feels like those bad situations will last forever. It's like, oh God, I'm in pain. I would never not feel pain again. As you have gas pains on the bed. Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts? Gold and silver, Mark Benjamin. That's beyond my scope. That's beyond my scope. I don't know enough about it. I know people, look, a lot of that, none of that stuff is real, right? I mean, whether you're talking about dollars that are just paper, or whether you're talking about gold, which is just metal, silver, which is just metal. Human beings give those things value. It doesn't have any inherent value. Only to the degree that you can use it, only to the degree that you can eat it or build something from it. The other intermediary way that we organize our brains to think about that stuff having value is not real. That said, if the dollar crashes, like if, I don't know, something takes place. Let's say the dollar no longer becomes the reserve currency of the world. And like Britain ended up with this kind of deflation where masters of the universe, the white man's burden, going to help the little darkies in India and these other places around the world. If that collapses, would people be more inclined to somehow put their money into gold and silver? Well, yes, it kind of depends on how bad it collapses. The debt is what, $21 trillion, that magnificent number. You have healthcare, your bridges, waterways falling apart, people are still inhaling water laced with lead. That is going to create a certain amount of crime, which means you're going to need more cops, mean more jails, which creates more money. That's a tangent. If it collapses, they're undoing the regulations that Obama put in place for banking, the tepid banking regulations. And they're putting more money to boost up their stock value, their stock money. Meaning they're inflating the amount of money that they were going to earn based on the tax cuts that Trump gave. That was predictable. Everybody knew it was going to take place. It took place. The catch becomes, though, what's real? And if it goes bust, would the United States be able to accommodate it? And who's going to be in office to accommodate it? And how bad is it going to be? Meaning, if there is a crash, and some people are predicting a crash, but to be fair, people are always predicting a crash because capitalism always has like cyclical crashes over time. Yeah, I would imagine people would invest their money in silver or gold as an escape hatch. But from the standpoint of what it means, I don't know. I have no idea what it means. Wesley Walker's in the house. What's happening, Wesley? What's happening, Wesley Walker? Now, I think centralized capitalism is probably basically like everything's controlled by a small group of people that if you cross them, it gets screwed over by the same thing. But why does it need to be that way? This is kind of my point when I'm saying the way that we organize ourselves. Even from the standpoint of work, why are we organizing ourselves in a way where you have a small number of people who are controlling all of these items? People, I've even heard Cenk Uygur say, oh, people are too stingy and greedy in order to have a system where you take what you need and give and all this other stuff. That's what he believes because he's a capitalist. That's not necessarily reality. There was some research I was looking at, I think it was the other day, I need to find that article, where they were saying when people had what they needed, they were more generous. That's like a no duh. But it was to a number like 90%, meaning in a different system, in a different environment, when people had what they need, they were perfectly okay with being generous. Who knew? Who knew? I keep saying this idea of lefty values, morality, these things are emergent. When you get the opportunity to express these things, you express those things. And our society could be organized in a way where it expresses it more so as opposed to keeping us in competition with one another. Yeah. But I guess my point is, if we believe that, meaning if we agree, and I agree with you, when you have people with unchecked power, those people become maniacs. When you allow people take what they need and all this other stuff, they become greedy and everything. Agreed. Then why is it okay to have a small number of people who we agree are going to be greedy and are going to look out for themselves, control over all of these things and essentially all of these people across the United States and all of these various businesses? Why? I agree with you. If people get that much power and that much control, they become greedy assholes. Then why do we allow them to get that much power and that much control? A more decentralized structure. I agree with Chomsky on this. I think it makes more sense. I want less hierarchical control unless that hierarchy can be explained and validated. That being said, I'm not an anarchist. I just think that makes more sense to me from the standpoint of people having more freedom in the way they go about their affairs. Both things are true, of course. People have the capacity to both cooperate and compete. Yeah, that's right. And to some degree, and I love this, because ultimately we get to this idea of background and environment. There's no such thing as talking about a person without talking about the context the person exists. Meaning, there's no such thing as a person in a vacuum. Yes, you can put a person in a vacuum, but the person is going to die in a vacuum, and he's not really operating in a vacuum. He's just kind of floating in space. Dead, maybe alive, wishing he was dead. In normal terms, a person, in the way they function, they're functioning in some context, meaning there is something that's being etched on them, either things that they're pushing away or things that they're accepting. Those things will have an effect on that person's propensity to cooperate or the person's propensity to compete. I'm making the point that environment dramatically affects how the person behaves, and creating a society, an environment that allows that person to operate in a way that's not as threatening, that's not as competitive, will get you a better person. A person having access to the things that they need will give you a better person. My argument is that the chaos that we have in our society to some degree comes from the competition that we have in our society. This capitalistic thing of maximizing your profit that's always at the expense of somebody else. The basis of it is competition. And to some degree, that's the basis of the problem. All right, I'm going to end this because I have other videos that I want to do, but I thank you guys for showing up. Jamal, would you consider having Homie Hawkins on your show? I don't know who he is. He's running for New York governor as a Green. Yeah, of course. Of course. Absolutely. Wealth is a sickness, agreed. As you gain more of it, people want more of it. And you know what? That's weird. Like, it's Bill Gates has $150 billion. That's $150 billion that's not circulating. That's $150 billion that's not in somebody's belly or over somebody's head. That's $150 billion that's not building a road or a street or a hyperloop from point A to point B. That is $150 billion being wasted. That's $150 billion being wasted. An economic system that allows one individual to get that much money is a broken economic system. And that economic system needs to change, including the way that we think about people with that much wealth. That stuff needs to change. All right. I'm going to end this. Harold Callahan. I'm sorry, Harold. I'm sorry. Jamal, I think you should discuss more what a working class self-emancipation would look like. Thanks for your attention to the matter. DXR. That wouldn't be a bad idea. When I talk about that stuff, I tend to talk about that stuff in terms of Star Trek. And the reason I talk about it in terms of Star Trek, because I want people to see it from a third-person perspective, where they think about themselves in relation to what could be. Even if you take away the high technology, this idea of can technology emancipate our population? The answer is yes. Can it do it under a capitalist model? Fuck. No. No. Emancipation and capitalism are not hand in hand. The very basis of the capitalist model, giving somebody a job, means that person who has that job is a slave to whoever is giving him that job. This is not emancipation at all. This is essentially a form of slavery by the top 1% in almost an anonymous way to the working class. Yeah, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. Were I to vote for someone besides Cynthia Nixon, it would be Randy Credico. Can't split the vote so much Como wins the race. That would be so stupid. Credico is running in the election? I didn't know Credico was running in the election. To be free is to be you. Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows what that means. Like, that's not what it means. Like, what does it mean to be oneself? I mean, ultimately, oneself is to some degree defined by the society in an odd way. Even if the person is against what the society is pushing, he is still functioning in some kind of relation to the society itself. What does it mean to be you? And is there really a such thing as being you outside of where you are? I don't know how to fully answer that. What I can say is, but I know what you mean in the overt sense or an explicit sense. Like if you want to wear dreadlocks and the company says no, then the company to some degree is telling you some aspect of self that you need to change in order to be there in that particular space. If you want to act in a socially responsible way and the company doesn't want to act in a socially responsible way, then you are running afoul of that corporate, hegemonic viewpoint within the guidelines or within the confines of the corporation. Working within a space to some degree precludes you from being you, especially when it's in a totalitarian company. Look, to some degree, I would imagine in any interaction with society, you have to balance yourself in relation to where you are, even if you're outside. You might like to do kung fu as you walk down the street. If you hit somebody, that's a lawsuit. You shouldn't be doing kung fu when you walk down the street. Just walk down the street. So in every situation, you're going to have to balance yourself to some degree. Look, I guess I'm saying this. Freedom, to some degree, is always dependent upon where you are and whether or not somebody else is nearby. Because the moment that somebody else is nearby, you're sharing the space. Your freedom can't be at the expense of somebody else's freedom. Otherwise, you're just back to the capitalistic system. Your freedom, to some degree, is always going to be balanced in relation to who else is around you. That's either at a workspace or whether you're outside. So I would be more specific to say socially responsible and what you want to do versus, yeah, maybe that doesn't work. I mean, ultimately, it's like, what do you want to do when you get up in the morning? Do you want to sling hamburgers, or do you want to actually do something that's socially beneficial? I suspect that most people will say socially beneficial because it feels like they would have a hand in doing something real as opposed to just doing something frivolous that's giving people cancer. And I think the last point is important. Imagine if for the moment that your government said, look, we're doing a massive solar project. And this project is going to provide X amount of energy for X amount of people. And we are pulling from the community itself low skill work, where we're going to train you how to do this in order to help with this particular project. And this project is going to be all around the nation, in various cities around the country, because we're taking climate change and energy seriously. We're also investing in worker co-ops that would build solar panels to go on people's houses, in addition to training people on how to connect these power sources, because we want to get these as many houses as possible to cut down on the amount of energy, that they have to spend money on, which gives the incentive for the people to actually say, hey, holy shit, I don't have to have an electric bill. That's great. Or I can mitigate my electric bill. And B, a tax break for purchasing it. Or for that matter, a stipend to purchase it. Right off the bat, you can imagine the amount of business that's going to be generated just from that very act, in addition to the number of people who are going to be able to take those jobs and run with it. Now, at this point, the government is instigating a project. Instead of having boomer corps, whatever the hell that is, they're having a corps to go out all throughout the country that they are training, that's working for the government itself, to build these massive fucking devices in order to supply power to the people of that particular community, in addition to supplying green energy all throughout the country. Are you telling me that you don't believe the country will be fired up over green energy if you're telling them that for the most part, we're making sure that you're getting solar panels to your house since we're going to get rid of your electric bill? Don't give me the position of the moderate. I think it's worthless. That argument that I just gave you, I would guarantee you that most of the public would say, fuck yes, regardless of the political spectrum, nobody wants to pay an electric bill if you don't have to pay an electric bill. And the reason that you're given is we need to do something because there's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. We got to do something about it. So we're taking drastic measures and we're going to make sure that you're not going to have to pay a power bill. There's something to be said about people who are trying to get shit done, as opposed to the tiddlywinks and the playing footsies that they do and call it politics. I mean, fuck, man. Winkle the Bernie bro, not surprised Obama grand bargain would have cut Social Security. Yeah, he was going to try to nix it. Did you piss off hearing Obama talk about UBIs? I've never heard Obama talk about UBIs. I've never heard Obama talk about UBIs. I need to see it. I'll look it up. I've never heard him talk about UBIs. Did he talk about it while he was in office? Did he talk about it? It's like, is it a situation like a person losing their job and calling to pay a bill? Hey, I know I lost my job, but I really want to pay this bill now. But you don't have a job. Yeah. I don't. Offshore wind is really cool green energy. Yeah, when's yeah, whatever the wherever it is. I don't care like how they generate the energy itself. I'm saying if you're really concerned about this thing of jobs and everything else, then do something about it. If you're really concerned about green energy, do something about it. If you care about poverty, do something about it. None of this half-baked measures and everything else. I'm talking about big plans to get things done. Generate a public will about it. Get the public behind you on it. Most of what these guys do is just in opposition to whatever the Republicans do. I'm sick of that. I'm talking about get stuff done. And I think the public to some degree is sick about it. Obama talks about the UBI in the same way he talks about universal health care. Yes, we can, but in reality, he has no interest in it. You know, Obama also was talking about the public option. What happened to that one? What happened to that? Jim Garrison, there you go again, talking common sense as opposed to the fucked up way things are. Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely agree. All right. Kinky, I'm just saying, be careful about too many candidates opposing the Republican incumbent. What's taking place against Donald Trump is weird to me. Like, the mainstream media has essentially thrown all level of objectivity out the window. They've gone balls out. All of the Democrats, for the most part, have screamed at the top of their lungs. I can understand why. Some Republicans have essentially went with the wind and said, okay, fair enough, and have gone along attacking and criticizing Trump. But the public doesn't seem to care. Think about that. Like, with the entire establishment screaming at Donald Trump, the public still has like a 40% approval rating of the guy. It's like Obama approval rating. It's so fucking weird to me. Oh, Kinkish responded to you. Fair enough. All right. I'm going to end this. Yeah, Winky, these are the corporate Democrats. They call themselves moderates, but really they're the corporate Democrats. And, you know, I did the video the other day where Third Way was essentially the Wall Street Democrats, admitting that the most of their money is from Wall Street. So, all right, I'm going to end this. Yeah. Mark Benjamin, yes. The big mistake today is the fight isn't about black versus white, it's green versus, is rich versus poor. Agreed. UBI is a Koch brothers policy, Stephen Carl. I don't think anything is wrong with UBI. Even if it's Koch brothers, I don't care. Compare it with the jobs guarantee, you know, working in coordination. I want people to have enough space to be able to see the political situation for what it is. Now, you can say that the moment people get that space, they go to sleep. It also may be true. It also may be true that you need a certain amount of pain in order to get people involved in the political process. That may also be true. I want less pain on the population. I want to get rid of poverty. And the two ways that I know of immediately doing that, at least within this particular capitalistic system: universal basic income, jobs guarantee, expand Social Security, Medicare for all, and college. Like, if you're talking about ways of getting rid of poverty and putting more money in people's pocket and paying off the college loans thing, there are ways for you to get rid of poverty in the society. You have the capacity to do it. They just don't do it. So UBI is a market-based solution to an economic problem. Now, that's true. No, that's true. I agree with you. I agree. But the problem that I'm stuck with is, how do you get rid of these issues? And is it the socialist perspective that the issues should fester until you get to the point where things are so horrific and so horrible that people essentially jump onto a socialist platform? I don't know if I'm on board for the hellscape scenario. Just saying. All right, I'll end this here. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. Oh, and make sure I didn't miss anyone. Not surprised Obama's grand bargain would have cut Social Security. Yeah, he was going to nick Social Security. If any Democrat is willing to vote to nix, cut, trim, tweak anything to Social Security but an increase to Social Security, that's a fail. That's an outright fail. That's a betrayal. That's an utter betrayal of everything it means to be a Democrat at that point. The idea that he was willing to cut it in and of itself says everything. Somehow that super sent twice. What are you talking about? No, I didn't. I only sent once. Oh, you sent it twice. Oh, you're fine. What? Winky, you're fine. You're fine. Winkle the Bernie Bro, guys, has a channel of his own. He is my Yeah, Caleb, I agree with you. UBI is inferior to social programs. I agree. But look, Caleb, this is where I'm at. We gave away airwaves. We gave away, for all intents and purposes, oil. We give the resources of this country gets given away. Like, if you think about, oil in Alaska. Sarah Palin, one of the things she said was the oil of Alaska belonged to the people of Alaska, and I'm giving a kickback for that oil of Alaska. Let's not call it a UBI. Let's call it a kickback for the oil usage in Alaska. Fair enough. But for all intents and purposes, what she gave was a UBI. Don't call it a UBI, call it something else. Say it's a kickback for the resources used by the 1% in this particular society. Call it a rich tax, call it whatever you want. They get to use our services, they get to use our police force, our fire department, they get to use all of these things. They get to walk the streets at night that's relatively safe. They get to use Starbucks. They get to talk to a polite person who's not trying to rip their pockets or rip their wallet out of their pockets. They get the privilege of interacting in a society. Shouldn't they pay for it? And if that answer is yes, then yeah, I'm okay with a universal basic income. So for some degree, you're essentially paying for the society to which you're in. I'm not against that. Does that mean you shouldn't do the other stuff? No. And would I be against the UBI if it was the UBI and stripping away other items? Yes. Yes. So it kind of just depends on how it's implemented, whether I would be for it or against it. But in principle, am I for it? Yeah, I am. All right, I'm going to end this here. Appreciate you guys showing up, man. I know for the most part we're just talking. And yeah, I had other shows that I wanted to do, but fair enough. I'm gauging my audience, and that's always fun. So you guys have a good, decent one. And by the way, I'm having Viewer Appreciation Month next month. So anyone that gives Patreon a super chat will be put in a box. And my wife is going to pull a name out of a hat. And that person each week is going to get a t-shirt. And the patrons can submit a name of a piece. Essentially, submit the name of a something they want discussed, a topic. And we would pick, I guess, top 5 and do a show on the top 3 or top 5. So that's going to be once a week. It's going to be, I guess the names will go out where they can put your name in a hat or what you want to talk about on Mondays, and we will choose, I guess, somewhere on Fridays to do the show. So it should be fun. My wife came up with the idea. I want to give her credit for it. So I end it here. All right, guys. Y'all have a decent one. You may see me later tonight. You might not. This one has gone much, much longer than I anticipated. But either way, you guys have a decent night. Thanks, everyone.